Are you a hardworking business owner striving for success online? There is help. Welcome to the School of Internet Marketing podcast, featuring candid conversations and inspiring stories of online success. Now here's your host.
This is James Martell, founder of the School of Internet Marketing. I'm your host today, and I'll be speaking with my assistant and editor, Kimberly Juchnowski, about why you, as a small business owner, needs content. And we'll be talking about how that content can have a big impact on your bottom line. Now, before we dig in, just a reminder to our listeners that if you have questions for our guests during the show or at any time, you can send your questions on Twitter using our hashtag #GoGreatMinds. Kimberly works directly with our writing team and knows firsthand what it takes to create great content. However, today I'm going to be talking with her about why you as a business owner needs that great content. Kimberly is also an editor here at the School of Internet Marketing, and while we get her set up and comfortable into our virtual studio here, why don't we play a little music from Along the River Chai from the Audio Jungle. Now, Kimberly, there's a little gong that just went off, and I thought that would be most appropriate because, of course, you and I, we've known each other for 7 or 8 years now, but you and I really started working together a lot when you were actually remote from the White Rock area. You were off on one of your classic 6-month adventure vacations to the land of Thailand, and that little piece of music there, that was called Along the Chao Praya, and you mentioned to me that that's a river over in Thailand.
Yeah, it's a river that runs right through Bangkok, actually, and it's a main way to get around the city, so you can hop on boats and get all over the place, and there's a lot of floating markets and things to see from the river, so it's a really beautiful way to get around.
I'm sure I've seen a lot of those on the Discovery Channel. Isn't that the river where you actually sit in the boats and you can literally, they paddle you right up to the market stalls?
Oh yeah, definitely. And they've got long tail boats too if you're needing to get somewhere a little bit quicker. So yeah, it's really interesting. Now,
business owners, of course, the end result of most business owners starting a small business is to it's not really that because we want a business. It's what we want the end result that the business can bring us. And of course, in your particular case, you love to travel and you're a little bit of a free spirit. And I know I've known you to venture off before to China, and you go to the craziest places. And the internet's really kind of helped you do that. Most recently with this recent trip where you and I had a chance to really work together through the internet. From great distances, and that was it had a little bit of a challenge from time to time just because of time zones, but overall I think it worked out really, really well. And in your particular case, you handle a lot of our editing, in fact all of my editing for Clearbook Software or Clearbook Web Services and for the school. And as a business owner, I need content. I always need content, and I would think most listeners that own businesses are in a similar boat, because here we are in the internet age, and the traditional forms of advertising such as Yellow Pages and local newspapers, the staple of a lot of business advertising has really started to decline rapidly lately because, of course, the eyeballs have shifted from the traditional Yellow Pages and newspaper to the online world. So now we need to start creating our own content, for our blog posts and our feature articles, and maybe it could be something as simple as a bio or some descriptive text for a YouTube video, or maybe a podcast that needs a little article that goes along with it, or it could be something in the area of social media, which we now know is absolutely massive for Facebook or Twitter, because no matter how you slice it, it's all content. And you know that you work directly with our writers every single day, and you are up against it. So I'm thinking that for small business owners here who are in a similar boat, they're maybe thinking they need content, they're not quite sure how to go about it. They know they should be online, and one of the first places that we need to start is through developing content. So why don't we kick this off with a little frank discussion on, as an editor. And, I would think a lot of small business owners have never hired an editor, and I would recommend that they do. And we could talk about possibly where you can find one in a future episode. But let's talk about, as an editor, what exactly do you do, and how do we work together?
Well, first of all, what we usually do is meet face-to-face, decide what needs to be created, what kind of content, and then really nail down a topic and iron out the specifics of the project, exactly what we're looking for and what we're going to need in that article or particular piece of content. And we put all of those really fine details together in a very, very detailed project description and then go from there.
And I do know you and I right now, we're working on a little project for a California-based attorney who needs blog posts for his website. And he's in a position where he doesn't want to create them himself. He'd rather just outsource it. So there's always that opportunity. But for those business owners that really want to kind of, take this on themselves, maybe they have somebody on the staff that they could, teach how to do this and kind of put a bug in their ear to do it. Let's walk through that process a little bit about how you and I, work together to brainstorm the topic. Let's start off with maybe a feature article. Most websites need content. Feature articles are great because they are usually in-depth, detailed, visitor-focused. They're a little bit keyword-rich. They have the opportunity to rank highly in the search results. So you and I, let's say we needed to come up with a series of feature articles for one of our sites. You and I would sit down, and then we go through a whole process of figuring out what these articles are going to be about.
Yeah, there's a lot of brainstorming involved, just going back and forth with ideas, and just basically saying titles out loud actually gets you quite far to see if a topic would work as a feature article. So a lot of back and forth and brainstorming.
And we always keep the reader in mind, of course, so we're figuring out who's going to be reading this article, what questions do they have. So we literally just pour all of this onto a page of content. I do know you do a little bit of research, so if we need to know some statistics or something to include with it, that you can usually pour into what we call a project description or a detailed project outline. It's basically just a document where we pour our thoughts, and this is the document that we're going to give to the writer once we're finished with it. So it's literally, as you mentioned, it's a brainstorming session, and then also we run keyword reports, don't we?
Yeah, we put all of that into the project description. So once we nail down our topic after brainstorming and everything, we decide exactly what the focus keyword is going to be, identify what the problem or the need that the reader is looking at when they're searching for the article, and do all of the research for that and make sure that it's included, and the writer knows that they have to include the certain keywords, and what kind of audience we're talking to as well is really important. So we include that, figure out exactly who will be reading these.
I do know as well you include some sample headline styles that you'd like to see, and you ask them for subheadlines and bullet points. Explain that if you would.
Yeah, we really want to make it easy to read, basically. So breaking up the article a little bit instead of just having plain text all throughout, it's really a lot better to keep the person engaged in reading. Subheadlines are great when they're catchy, somebody sees it and then they want to read the couple paragraphs that are underneath. We like to keep things quite short as well, because it's just easier for people to read, especially on a computer or a tablet or something like that. So there's definitely specifications that we go through to make it the best reading experience for the audience, basically.
And it's so you mentioned short, and you're talking about paragraphs. I have a pet peeve about these big fat paragraphs that you see online sometimes. I do know that if there's a nice page of content and it's broken up, as you said, with subheadlines and some bulleted text, then the paragraphs are nice and neat and trim. You can actually skim through a page of content online, relatively quickly. And, I think that's just a friendly thing to do to the for the reader, so you can make their experience a little more pleasurable. Hopefully, get them right through that article, because of course, at the end of the article, as business owners, we want them to do something. It may be to purchase a product. It might be to click through to our, maybe we're writing a post within Facebook for a new video that we've posted. We want them to click on the link and then come visit us on the site, or whatever the action is. We want to make sure we don't distract them with a bunch of big block paragraphs and make it difficult for them to read. So now, once you have that detailed project description, what's your next step?
What I do is head over to Elance, actually, where we hire freelance writers. I'll post the project in there, and then the writers come in and bid on the project. So usually I'll get about half a dozen to a dozen bids within the first couple days, and I might actually negotiate one of the bids if they're too high, so you can do a little back and forth with them right in there.
And just if I may, for new listeners, Elance, and that's elance.com, ELANCE.com. It's as Kimberly said, it's a place where you can post your job, whatever you need to get done, and we've posted over 750 of them so far, and we've had all kinds of good success stories with it. Very easy to use, highly recommended. So once you've done that and you've decided, how do you determine which writer you're going to hire?
I go through everybody's profile pretty in pretty good detail, like through their portfolio, their sample articles, the feedback that they've actually gotten from previous projects is really, really important, because you can get a lot from that. So based on that, I'll select the appropriate person and award the project, fund it, and set up a couple of milestones. Usually I'll break it up and have them actually do a couple articles first and send those over so I can review them and give them feedback before they actually go ahead with the whole project.
I learned about Elance back in 2004 when I was speaking at a conference down in California, and one of the gentlemen came up to me and says he uses Elance, and it was a game changer for me because it was so easy to use, and there's a talent pool of somewhere around 1.8 million service providers that are sitting there ready to bid on your project. So if you need writing, definitely keep elance.com in mind. Now, with that said, once the writer sends you the completed work, what's your next steps?
Well, first thing is to read through everything very, very thoroughly and very carefully. Every single word on the page needs to be read, because that's the thing is when small business owners and people are doing this themselves, when content comes back, you skim through or take a couple paragraphs, and there's a lot that can be missed. You don't want any spelling errors or wrong punctuation, because once it's published, and people don't generally go back and go over it and tweak things after, so make sure it's right the first time. If there's any links in the content, I check the links, make sure those are right and up to date. Check the references that they've made, and also fact check, because they often make bold statements, and they're not always true. So it's good to find out that what they're talking about is actually true and has validity to it and makes sense in the article as well, is a huge one. The relevance of what they're talking about needs to be throughout the whole thing. And then, basically make sure everything's to spec from our work order, which is quite detailed, and then sign off on it.
And then at that point, that's when you release the funds, and of course you don't pay until you're completely happy with it, and anything you need, you go back and forth with them a couple of times, and it's usually pretty good, isn't it? It's usually great.
Yeah, it usually works out really well. They're very, very good with getting feedback, especially they like having those first couple articles to see what we think and what we actually need. Really helps the writer with the rest of the project, because they know exactly what you're expecting from them. So
I do know that in the school I've got a course called Outsourcing Essentials. It's 5 lessons long, 5 video lessons, and it's ideal for a small business owner who wants to learn how to outsource. And we're talking about, in this context, writing, but anything else in there that you need: graphic design, audio editing, video production, anything a business owner needs can be outsourced to Elance, usually at a fraction of what you would pay locally. So be sure to check that out. Also included in the course is a little booklet that includes 25 project descriptions and work orders that you can copy, because I do find sometimes people don't quite know what to say, and this will solve that problem. And it's 5 one-hour videos, again, with companion audio. If you've got a staffer that's interested in learning how to do this, maybe you're too busy to take on this project, but you do realize how important content is. you can point them in the direction of the school as well. So the School of Internet Marketing.com. Kimberly, I can see we are out of time. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, James.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about the School of Internet Marketing and to get access to all exclusive courses and interviews, visit theschoolofinternetmarketing.com. That's www.theschoolofinternetmarketing.com.